Welcome to Mindful School Marketing, your go-to podcast for personal and professional growth.
We're school marketers, business owners, and moms passionate about connecting other school professionals with tools and strategies for success.
We love solving problems, exploring new ideas, and thinking outside the box. Let's transform your school and life starting right now.
This episode is brought to you by Enquiry Tracker. Easily manage all your inquiries, tours, open houses, and applications with a system designed by K-12 education, marketing, and admissions professionals.
Welcome to Mindful School Marketing. I'm Tara Clays.
And I'm Aubrey Bursch. Today, we're joined by Kristin Moore and Alicia Sullivan. Kristin Moore is the Director of Marketing and Enrollment for the 72 Catholic schools in Western Washington in the Archdiocese of Seattle. Her dynamic strategy and practical resources have been shared with schools across the country and inspire a more contemporary approach to expanding the mission of Catholic schools. Alicia Sullivan is the Director of Marketing and Admission at St. Luke's School in Shoreline, Washington, which is a suburb north of Seattle. St. Luke is the very first IB Catholic school for primary and middle years programs on the West Coast, and Alicia, in her 10 years, has been instrumental in the growth of this unique community. Welcome, Alicia and Kristin.
Thank you so much for having us.
We're really excited for this conversation today. Can you just tell us a little bit more about each of yourselves?
Sure, I'll start off. I'm actually, of course, welcome everyone who's tuning in. I am in downtown Seattle right now, and actually I am an East Coaster. So I grew up on the East Coast in upstate New York. I went to Catholic schools from kindergarten through 8th. Took a little pause, went to a public high school because there wasn't a Catholic high school in my area, and then finished up my undergrad and graduate work in a Catholic Jesuit institution. So I do have Catholic school blood, actually. I'm also the mom of 3 kids who have been products of Catholic education. And truly, I feel now in my role as Director of Marketing and Enrollment for our 72 schools, I feel like I can live my passion for access to education every day. So I'm just so happy to be here and very excited to introduce one of my colleagues, Alicia Sullivan.
Thank you so much, Kristin. And thank you for everybody who is tuning in. A little bit about me. My background actually was in technology. So I was in high-tech sales, managing 11 states and running all around the country prior to becoming a mom. And then our children started school here at St. Luke. I didn't grow up Catholic, but my husband did. And I fell in love with the parish and the school. And so as an adult, I became Catholic. And I find that I can provide testimonies so many times over to parents that are looking at the school. Often there's one parent who had an experience in Catholic schools and they want that for their children. And then the other one has no idea what they're talking about because they came from public schools. And so it's just such a wonderful journey to take with families and just seeing them love their kids so much and, wanting what's best for them.
Thank you so much for sharing. I loved hearing about your journeys, from the beginning and where you are now. Having worked in Catholic schools for 6 years, I truly have really enjoyed that community, and I'm excited to dive more into that conversation today. I'm curious, so let's talk about our audience that is maybe not involved or not familiar with Catholic schools. Can you talk a little bit about how Catholic schools may be different than traditional independent schools, and a little bit more so we can familiarize our audience?
Yeah, I'll kick off with this one. Just to give just a really brief overview, the very first Catholic school started in Philadelphia in 1783. So already we have this very rich history, and Catholic schools were established to serve mostly poor immigrant communities. And that's really just where this whole movement got its start. Of course, they're faith-based, formed in the Catholic tradition. Most of our elementary schools, and I say most, are affiliated with a parish. Mm-hmm. So they really work together, and they're not only financially supported, but there's also just a community there of parish and school families. But there are also schools that are Catholic schools as well that are affiliated with a religious order. So you might have a Jesuit high school, or you might have a school supported by the Sisters of the Holy Names. So that really makes us very unique. We have urban schools, we have suburban schools, we have single sex schools, STEM schools, IB schools, we have classical schools, we have large schools and small schools. So I think the variety of our system is very, very unique. And historically, the outcomes, student outcomes in Catholic schools are exceptional. There's a secret sauce to Catholic schools that independent schools and charter schools have researched to try to figure out how can they duplicate that in some way, maybe with a twist, their own personal twist on it. It's also a beautiful thing that we're a part of an international community. I actually looked up online, and according to the International Office of Catholic Education, there are 62.2 million students across the globe being educated in Catholic institutions. So we're a significant player, I think, in the educational world, and we are the largest non-government school system in the world. So I think those are just interesting facts that really make us a very unique choice, I think, and really just puts kind of a larger perspective on the impact of Catholic schools, Catholic education. Typically, a lot of our schools have been less expensive than our non-parochial counterparts. Oftentimes, even in downtown Seattle, some of our schools, our tuition still is significantly less than some of our non-parochial counterparts. So I think, because we're so mission-based, we want to make sure that we can draw families, that we're not just pulling from an elite economic strata for our students. And so affordability is a huge priority for us in Catholic schools, and we work very hard to achieve that. And when I refer to the secret sauce of Catholic schools, this is what I'm talking about. We have these 3 pillars, and I would say you could walk really into any Catholic school in the world and you would hear the same. The first is faith, of course. I think there's something to developing the spiritual side, the spiritual part of a human person. Excellence in education. I mean, that's why we're here. That is our, goal. We want to not just meet standards, we want to exceed standards. And lastly, which I think is a component that is really beautiful and really puts our faith into action, is we have a service element, and that is cultivated and reinforced in all of our schools. And so I think it's really that dynamic there that has really kept our schools viable for all these years in all these different countries and cultures. This is something that we all share.
Yeah, in my experience, to piggyback on particularly the last part of her comment, reading student reflections from middle schoolers who have just completed a service project. We've done several with veterans homes in the area over the last several years, and their reflections are like, oh, they're incredibly strong. And you would never know that this is all going inside, inside of the heart of a 14-year-old, 13-year-old. It's crazy. But yes, I think that the community is something that's always at the top of all of our family surveys, in addition to academic excellence. So it used to be for St. Luke that community was first. Now it's second only to academic preferences. So that's a good place to be. But the community is something that everyone really notes and feels on their tours in our schools and walking through the buildings, going to our events, and being part of the community. And they say later, like, you were so right. I remember when you said that. It sounds so cliche, but once they feel it, they understand.
Yeah, wow, you guys are very good spokespeople for Catholic education. I can see why you're in your job, why you do well there. Also, relationship to Catholic education myself. So I can attest to some of the things that you're talking about as well, and the benefits that lie in the Catholic approach to education. Let's kind of flip this a little bit and let's talk about the unique challenges that you might face and that other religious schools, quite frankly, might face standing out in a market and attracting those mission aligned families. What do you think are some of the key marketing challenges that Catholic schools specifically face right now?
I think we have a couple. We definitely have our share of challenges, and that keeps us busy in our work for sure. I think for us specifically in the Pacific Northwest, and I can say this as an East Coaster by birth, that we're in a very unchurched part of the country. Here in the Pacific Northwest, the mountains are your church and the water. And so we're not in a particularly religious part of the country. So for us, that's a unique challenge, right, to the Pacific Northwest. But on the flip side of that, we're a very service-oriented part of the country, giving back, community element, I think, so that helps support us a little bit there. But I do think the religious message, that we're Catholic, I think the challenge of you don't have to be Catholic to attend one of our Catholic schools, that's been a conversation for my entire career. And it's still, I think people outside of Catholic schools, there's still some confusion about, do I have to be Catholic or do I not have to be Catholic to go to a Catholic school? So I think that is always a marketing challenge for us too, and it's balancing that you don't have to be Catholic, but we are going to practice and we are going to be working within the Catholic tradition. So I think sometimes there's a little bit of a challenge there. Also, because we are such an old school system, we do have buildings that are aging, right? So we have beautiful property, tons of beautiful properties, and many of them were built. There's different waves of development. Around here, there was a huge burst in the 1960s. Well, those buildings are getting old. Those facilities aren't necessarily, those classrooms maybe were built for 45 kids, we're not going to put 45 kids in a classroom anymore. So, but what we need are more classrooms. But that building is, sometimes there's limitations in terms of expansion and, our hands are tied a little bit there, or campus, things around the campus, other buildings. So, and the cost to retrofit these buildings is extraordinary. And so I think those are just some of the challenges that we have just in terms of our schoolhouses, in different locations. I'll just
if I could also add,
and let Alicia jump in there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the thing that I can speak to is that each individual school really has a lot of work to do in branding. So, we are, as educational institutions, trying to keep up with all of the programs that private schools offer, so that we can also be competitive in our product. And, gone are the days when it's just pencil and paper and a teacher in the classroom. It just takes so much more to provide an education for students. So the cost of educating a student isn't what it used to be. And so it's designing all of those peripheral necessities and really kind of positioning your school in a unique way. Our history here at St. Luke, it was established in 1955. And initially it was a school that was really a magnet for kids with dyslexia. So they became experts in kids with learning differences and, how to bring them along in their education. And when I came here, it was after kind of the downturn of the economy, and our enrollment really was declining. And we were kind of looking at our product in a way. It was like, well, we're not really a school that focuses on helping dyslexic kids. We're a neighborhood school, and there wasn't a lot of knowledge about our school. So we continue to build our programs. We continue to get involved in a lot of community events and really get our name out there. Everything from, painting and putting lipstick on the building and bright colors, and to designing programs, and just really being involved in the community so that they see us, and giving back as well. But branding is something that all of the Catholic schools are having to, kind of come up with in their niche.
Yeah, and I want to just say one more thing about that too. And thank you so much for bringing that up, Alicia, because, our Catholic schools in years past were really filled up by parish families. And so there's a shift there. There's maybe less people in the parish that are involved there. We don't just have a feeder system with our parishes. Not to mention, we have some competition. We've got independent schools. We have, are popping up too. So, and it's funny, Catholic schools, we haven't really stepped up in terms of our marketing and branding for that reason, because in the past, we haven't really had to do much of that. Now we do. And it's starting at looking at the logo, looking at your website, looking at every single layer of your marketing assets. A lot of schools didn't have any, and no one's really updating their website. And, so it's a lot of, I think there's a lot of really development that needs to happen in the area of marketing. And that, of course, impacts, your enrollment, your fundraising, and the growth of your community if you're not dialed in there. So I think that's
if I could add on to Kristin, that Kristin previously was in a role like mine before she worked for the Archdiocese. So she really lived it and breathed it, and she understands what all of us in our key roles need. And so she's provided a network of training for all of the schools. Most of it's done in Zoom. So we get to tune in every week, and there's specialists that come in and give presentations on social media and, all different angles. So she's really brought us along in so many ways, given us so many examples, so many templates to work off of, so many recipes to, implement. So she's done a great deal of framework, which has been really helpful across the diocese.
I'm curious. So as a kind of a follow-up, because there's so many things I'm curious about. So when we're looking at this, like history of Catholic schools, and then we're talking about marketing challenges, a few things that come to my mind are like a niche within a Catholic school. Like if that Catholic school is a niche, but then a niche within a Catholic school. And the secondary piece that I immediately thought of was, you mentioned, a lot of times you'd have that feeders from the parishes, and from, like, it used to be like, oh, we have this group coming to us. With the absence of this, there probably is more of a need for a marketing position or marketing in general. And I'm curious, like, how that's all playing out in the Catholic schools that you're working with, and the Catholic school you work in, Alicia. Like, do you feel like the tides are turning a little bit more and we're embracing more marketing, or are we looking to find that niche that's going to help our Catholic schools stand out? If you could just talk a little bit about that, I'd be very interested to hear.
Yeah, right now there is a surge of parish families that are enrolling in our preschools and in our lower grades, where that was definitely not the case in my first couple of years here at the school. In fact, there were times when enrollment was down and we offered huge discounts, even like 1 year free tuition to start here in our schools. We were doing everything we could to try to attract parish families to, come be part of the largest ministry of the church, of our parish. And as schools, we are the largest ministry of each of our parishes. So it is really rewarding now to see a lot of these young families coming back and wanting their children to grow up in a parish school where they can go through sacraments and feel and grow up really at home in their own parish.
Across the board, I am at the 30,000 foot level now, so I get to see all the different schools with our 72 schools. Yes, it is becoming a priority for school leaders to say we need to have someone in this position. And now we're at the point where we've got several, many schools. I don't know how many specifically, actually, but I would say the majority have a marketing or an enrollment person that's working on these efforts. I think now the next step is to really, and I'm going to be presenting to our principals about this in April, actually, is how do we invite our advancement staff, which would include enrollment, marketing, communication, and fundraisers, whatever they're doing? Catholic schools have all different kinds of job combos. How do we invite them to partner with the school leader? Because right now, I think some of our schools want to manage, like those school leaders are trying to manage those marketing folks, but that's not their expertise. And those marketing folks need to be at those leadership conversations so they know, where's this school going? What's the vision? Because when I sit down with a donor or prospective student, I need to be able to know where we're going. And so we're kind of on the spectrum. I would say we're on board with needing a marketing person, marketing, enrollment, advancement. I'll just say advancement. That kind of incorporates all of those other groups. Now, how do we leverage that person, so that we're all on the same page? And this is, we have a growth mindset here in Seattle. Let me just tell you, we're on a growth pattern, right? We know where we need to go. We're not there yet. And we're just going to start kind of chipping away. It's people like Alicia and her community that's, tuning in, that's learning more, that's challenging herself to build St. Luke's, and in so many different ways. And so we're there. We have not arrived in the era of marketing, let me tell you, but we are on the journey with a growth mindset. Absolutely.
I love that growth mindset moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take that in the direction, because you've mentioned one of the challenges is attracting people who are not Catholic. So do you have a strategy for attracting those families, and then especially retaining them? What does that look like?
Alicia, do you want to talk about your local experience?
Yeah.
And then
So we have absolutely no problem attracting non-Catholics that are very interested in our school. Right now, our school is about 85% Catholic, and the other 15% is of various religions. We have Eritrean, for people from Ethiopia. We have some Jewish families, Christian families, and even some non-faith families, believe it or not. So it's our success has really been in our word of mouth, advertising, and I created a Share Our Success campaign early on that really it didn't cost very much at all, and it was extremely effective. We also have a referral reward that we give to families. It's called a referral program. They get a free one month's tuition for referring families. They have to enroll and sign contracts and all of that. So those kinds of programs have been the most fruitful in attracting new families. But yeah, we have families from all walks of life that are interested in our school. Some are transferring from some of the local private schools, non-Catholic schools. They just love what we're doing here. They love our faith-based global attitude towards, educating the whole child, being inclusive of all the ideas and all the faiths around the world, and really preparing our kids to not just sit in the classroom and listen, but to think about their content and really be able to apply it to familiar and unfamiliar settings. So, they're really learning they're collaborating, they're talking in the classroom. And so we naturally have really good students who are really good speakers. And it provides so much more of a fruitful education than, a traditional setting. And that just, when you have happy students who like to go to school, that's advertising in itself. Lots of students come here and parents are looking for them to get more social emotional support, and to be in an environment that's in their eyes, a healthier environment, and just hearing from the parents that their kids are turning around and coming home happy and, engaging in school and all of that, that love and attention and that, surge of faith and just all the things that go with our service and how we treat one another, I think really makes an impact.
And I would say from my vantage point, because I'll engage with families at different schools, or people will call me and say, hey, I'm looking for a school and I can help direct them. Oftentimes I think the good news, and I think even after COVID, it gave us a little bit of a bump because parents were finally looking for options. So maybe they had heard of Catholic schools, but then COVID put it like on their radar. So we're on the radar, and that was, we experienced a 6% jump in our enrollment overall, and we have maintained that and continue to grow an additional 1.5% this year. But so I think we had new parents that were now considering Catholic schools. And I think what appeals to them, of course, they're coming for the academics initially, right? I think that's, if they know that their child is going to get a better education in some capacity, whatever that is for them, they're open to the fact that we're a faith-based community. They're like, well, it's probably good for them to have, some morals and some values and have that element included. But I think sometimes what catches their eye is our academics, and that's really where we can shine. And then, as Alicia really articulated, once they join the community and they realize, wow, this is a fun group, my child's thriving. I feel a sense of belonging here. They feel, comfortable that they can be who they are, and they can continue to practice their traditions as well. I think that becomes, then we keep them, then they realize, wow, I belong here too. And
I think it's important to note also that many of the Catholic schools are one classroom per grade. The larger schools are the ones that have 2 classes per grade. I don't know if any in the Seattle area have 3 classes per grade. So we are now 2 classes per grade from preschool, our 3-year program, all the way through 8th grade. And that really is, in my opinion, ideal for students to be able to mix up friend groups and change classroom settings from year to year. But it is a journey to get there. And as I tell parents who are looking at our school, even from other Catholic schools, and I explain to them, gosh, in order to get the resources that we have now that we didn't have 10 years ago, it's a journey to get there. And it takes a lot of money to fund those people, to provide those specialists and those programs. It doesn't happen overnight. And it definitely takes a community of very dedicated and hardworking professionals with amazing leadership at the top to keep everyone energized and on the same page to get there. We're blessed to have that, for sure.
That's amazing. Thank you all so much for sharing. Really appreciate it. Especially, I think the point about COVID opening up so many educational opportunities for parents, where they were like, oh, wait, there's Catholic school. There's a Catholic school right down the street. And they're open right now. I mean, I think that they wouldn't have considered that prior. Yeah, absolutely. And the academics leading is, we were just at, I can't remember what sort of workshop we were at, where someone mentioned that parents are now looking at, it doesn't matter. They don't care where it comes from. And as long as they're like, oh, academics, great. My child will have a great education and this fits for our family. So it doesn't matter, where it is. They're more open-minded about what's the right fit for my child. So very, very interesting. And thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up. Now I'm excited to say that we are now shifting into the second part of our program. We have some questions that we ask all our guests, and we'd like to ask you. So here are rapid fire questions. I'm going to kick us off with the first one. If you could put one book as mandatory reading in the high school curriculum, what would it be?
You want to go first, Kristin?
Go ahead, Alicia. I've got one in the back of my mind here. You go ahead.
Okay, so mine was All I Really Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. I love all this very simple life lessons. Of course, one of the first things I thought about was, well, naturally, right, the Bible, but really all the things that you learn in that book that they point out really are, all those basic life lessons that we're supposed to remember to make us good, loving, hardworking, open-minded people. And I don't know, that was my reason for that coming to top of mind.
For me, I had one of Maya Angelou's works. I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings. I love that. It's kind of her story of resilience and brilliance. And I just feel like that's, sometimes we think we have, as teenagers, there's so many crises in our life, or we think it is the end of the world. And I just think that that journey of Maya's was just so inspirational to me. And I feel like that it's good timing for high school.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to step back for 1 second and ask you about mindfulness. This isn't a rapid fire question. I'm throwing a loop in here. But we like to ask our guests about what mindfulness means to them. And if you want to throw in how that applies to marketing your Catholic school audience or your Catholic schools in your area, go ahead and add that in too. But how do you see mindfulness in the work you do?
This is a really good question. I love this question, actually. So thank you for asking it. One of the things from my vantage point, and just I think probably how I'm wired, is just, I think quality is something that comes from mindfulness. When you're really mindful about the work that you have in front of you, I think you want to deliver a certain level of quality, whether it be a relationship, or a professional situation. I think what comes to mind is really prioritizing quality that expresses and really shows that mindfulness, not quantity, but quality. And I also feel like, reflection and analysis and impact, those are such important components to mindfulness too. And particularly now I'm coming from a marketing perspective, that if we're really mindfully cultivating, our growth and we're really mindful about our marketing, all of these components need to be a part of those initiatives. So the quality, reflection, analysis, looking back, what worked, what didn't. I always tell my schools, I'm like, do not, try it. If you've got a good idea, it's well thought out, you're putting a good professional spin on it, it's clean, it's slick, it's easy to access, give it a whirl. But, a lot of marketing is kind of trial and error. And so there's no, silver bullet I'm going to be able to deliver on. This will guarantee 50 students in September. I mean, it doesn't work that way. And so I feel like that second part of it, of just having that reflection, analysis, measure your impact. Did this work? Was it worth it? Could we tweak this a little bit? And let's set up a new target. Maybe we want to rework this a little bit, or maybe we want to just throw it out and try something else. I think that is so key to being mindful in marketing.
For me, the first thing that came to mind is really knowing where you are in this place and time. Not only where do you want to go, but you obviously have a journey to get there. So being mindful of the parents that you already have in your Catholic school, taking awesome care of them, hearing what their needs are, hearing what their suggestions are, and never forgetting about them as your first priority, was the first thing that came to mind for me with mindfulness in Catholic schools.
Thank you so much for sharing. That was really great. And I really appreciated, I know our audience will too, because it will resonate with many of them. I'm going to switch us back to more of a rapid fire question. What is one app you couldn't live without?
I cannot live without the Chase Bank app. I just cannot. I have teenagers and they're all over the country right now. And it's, Mom, I need, $20 for this. I mean, I thought when they left for college that because they would just empty my wallet, right? I'd go and think I had $20 in there. I get to the store and I'm like, where is that? But now I get the texts and things like that. And sometimes I need to just peek in and see where that money's going. The Chase app right now, Chase Bank app, is my number one go-to.
It's funny, Kristin, I'm just learning that with teenagers myself, only it's BECU, but yes, they all have their own debit cards now, and you get to peek in and see where is that money going. Mine is, my favorite app that I couldn't live without is Pinterest. I love being able to be creative, and I might have been someone who clipped things out of a magazine in the past and put it into a binder and had little folders with, different ideas in it. But I love having a digital collection of, things that resonate with me. When I get those little spurts of creativity, I can kind of catalog them and go back and be inspired when I need to be. Love Pinterest.
So interesting. Yeah, we were just talking about Pinterest the other day. I used to use it. I feel like I forgot about it. So thanks for mentioning that. What are you each reading right now?
I am reading.
Oh, go ahead. Alicia, go.
Okay, I'm gonna mix it up and I'll go first.
Good.
My daughter pretty much eats books for lunch, so she is reading all the time. And she turned me on to a book that's called Anatomy, a Love Story. And it's a period book set in the 1800s, and it's about a young woman who wants to be a surgeon. And this is during a time when being a doctor was very popular, but only for men. And being a surgeon was not as common and not as popular. And so I'm just getting into it, but it's the story of her absolute fascination with learning about anatomy and what makes the body work. So it's interesting to read, having a 15-year-old daughter kind of in the back of your mind.
So mine, I just finished a book that I loved, but I am on my nightstand. I have Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate. So I have, I'm not, it's been recommended to me, so I can't comment on it yet. And I'm realizing now when I read that question, I was thinking, gosh, you know what? I gotta prioritize that read time now because it's been sitting on my nightstand for like 3 weeks. So anyway, that is what I will be delving into here this weekend and setting a goal.
That's
Good
great.
job.
Well, we'll be sure to add these to our Goodreads list, which is a fantastic. I was just looking at it the other day, by the way, because all our guests kind of give us books and it's pretty fantastic. So I can't wait to add your selections to that. By me, I mean, Tara adds them. I want to give credit where it's due. Thank you, Tara.
I have to check it out.
Oh yes, you'll definitely want to do that, but great reads. I can't wait to add them to our list. What is one great piece of advice you'd like to leave us with?
Alicia, you want to go?
And is this like a life piece of advice or a piece of advice for Catholic schools, or I wasn't sure.
It can be anything. It can be if it's how you, what you wish you, like, I always think of it like, what is one great piece of advice you'd want to pass on to someone else, whether it be life, parenting, anything.
Yeah, the thing that I wrote down is that happiness is a choice and everything else is a matter of perspective. I find myself, that's something I've written down next to my desk. And oftentimes when I'm having a difficult time, the things that I pray for often are wisdom and perspective, because it seems like sometimes if you can get out of your own skin or your own head, your own perspective, and see something suddenly from a different point of view, it can just totally change everything for you. So that would be mine.
And for me, I think this is just, it's my own personal mantra, but it's also, I think, what I also share with my schools. Be courageous. I feel like life is too short. We have a set amount of time that we have no idea what that length is. And, take chances, be bold, and make good use of your time.
Love
Good
that.
advice, Kristin.
Thank you. Yes, thank you both so much. I'm so glad that you joined us today. I really enjoyed the conversation. You guys have a wealth of knowledge and passion for what you do. And thanks so much for sharing with us. Where can people find you online?
Well, if you're looking for me at the Office for Catholic Schools, you want to visit mycatholicschool.org, and you can find my team. You can get my contact information there. I am a collaborative person, so I welcome anyone to text, call, email. I love to collaborate with schools. So that's how you get me, mycatholicschool.org.
And our website is St. Luke, so STLUKE shoreline.org. or you can type in St. Luke Shoreline, it'll come right up.
Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you. We love this conversation. We're so glad you were here and you shared so much with our audience. Inquiry Tracker is the all-in-one CRM solution used by over 250 schools. Easily manage all your inquiries, tours, and open houses. Key instant analytics help you manage and grow a robust pipeline. So end spreadsheets forever.
The smart online application system with powerful document upload is a game changer. No school is too small or too big, and their Fast Start program will get you up and running in no time.
Best of all, the system is designed by K through 12 education marketing and admissions professionals. Check out Inquiry Tracker at inquirytracker.net. That's inquiry with an E, tracker.net.
Thanks for joining us on the Mindful School Marketing Podcast.
We'd love it if you pop into iTunes and leave a review, 5-star preferred. Let us know how you like the show. It helps us improve what we're doing and helps others find us too.